you started to talk a little bit about crisis, and I feel that crisis-ready mindset is the second mindset that is very critical in today's volatile world. And I define crisis as one whereby you have a setback or sometimes a failure. And most times in a crisis, we experience it to be a life and death. And we can, as an individual, either fight about that situation, or we can flee, or we can freeze. In a crisis, what's your normal way of reacting?
So I keep myself very level-headed.
Okay.
I've been thrown in the deep end quite a bit. And I'm also a swimmer. So the worst thing you can do is panic or fight against the water. Right. And the best thing you can do when you're thrown in the deep end is to try to relax and calm down. And actually, when you relax and calm down in the water, you start floating.
Yes.
Naturally.
That's right. Swimming, is it a hobby or was it a competitive sport that you did?
Yes, I engaged in it competitively in middle school and high school. From 7th through 12th grade, I was part of the swim team for my school.
Wow. So from swimming, you have that daily practice to be level-headed, right? And to know how to react. Can you share with us, how do you apply it, let's say, in real life, in other situations, not just in swimming as a competitive sport?
So, let's see. So as cathartic as crying was, it wasn't that helpful with the situation. I realized I couldn't cry forever every night for the rest of my life. And therefore, I had to do something. I think it was a bit of a survival mechanism. And I just had to face, this is the situation. I'm in this family. What can I do about it?
All right.
And first, you have to ground yourself in certain things. For example, I think one of the things that kept me grounded was I still knew that my parents loved me and cared for me, even though they're from afar. I knew that. Back then, we didn't have Skype or iPhones or Zoom or anything like that. And so it was a periodic call, long distance call, which were expensive. But I knew and I trusted the fact that they loved me. And so I was grounded in that. And then I realized that reacting sort of emotionally, crying, or if I'm panicked or if I give up, wasn't going to do me any good. So you have to reach in, sort of down deep into yourself and find the strength just to get up and to face the situation. And so after that, I moved to different schools and different families. And whenever I face a new situation, it doesn't have to be a crisis, it's just new. And for us, sometimes new can make us feel vulnerable. But I face new situations with confidence and with a smile, even if I have to fake it until I make it. But when you've already overcome certain obstacles in your life, and when you've already adapted to new environments, and when you've already made friends in new schools or classes, you start to gain that self-confidence. And so little by little, that self-confidence and that smile was no longer fake, but it was real. And I recognize that human connection is the most important. So whatever the problem is, we're all people at the end of the day looking for a connection. And so if you just see the person across from you that way and you reach out, you'll find a connection or a friend or a partner.
That's right. What you said is really valuable, because when you shared this whole thing about being that little kid on your own with relatives in different states in the US, how old were you?
So I was 5 to 7 in Chicago, 7 and 8 in LA, and then 9 when I finally moved to New York to live with my mom.
Right. And it's difficult for children to process stuff, right? But it's interesting that actually you developed your inner resilience during this time. And normally when we look at inner resilience, we talk about two things. One is coping mechanism. One of the coping mechanism that you used was a self-talk, right? I've got to stop doing this, or I've got to do this. and that's quite
Yes.
grown up, right? And then the number two thing that I also observed was you've actually over time reframed situation as not as a crisis. Like new doesn't mean anything, right? It's not like good or bad. That was also another interesting thing that you had done. And the third thing is I'm really amazed how you observe that human connection, right? And that to connecting to somebody, you can create for yourself being grounded again. And it's something that most people struggle with because most times when there's a crisis, they disconnect. You chose connection, and that allowed you to build your inner resilience. The second part of inner resilience is actually support structure.
Yes. So support is really important.